Right, let's dive into the news then and take a look at some other stories. Sian, would you like to begin proceedings this morning?
Yes, and there is a new world's oldest man.
Wow, right.
Okay.
So this is because the previous title holder, Chitetsi Watanabe of Japan, he's died at the age of 112, sadly. So his replacement, the new holder of the title, is Mr. Bob Wayton. He is from Alton in Hampshire. And in less than a month's time, he will be turning 112.
Wow, that's incredible.
So does this mean there's an older woman then? He's not the world's oldest person?
Possibly.
Oh, there's a question, yes.
Yeah, do you know what? I didn't look that up before I came up, but I will give it a Google. I will give that a Google in a bit. I imagine there might be.
Alton is a beautiful part of the world. I've been there a few times. Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said if you're living somewhere out in the country like there, or maybe by the sea, you know, a nice, hopefully for Bob, a nice relaxing lifestyle in Alton there.
Would you like to hear his reaction?
Oh, yes, please.
Thoroughly underwhelmed. I don't really feel satisfied because it means someone else has died. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I just accept it as a fact. It's not something I ever intended, wanted or worked for, but it's just one of those facts of life. You might find it amazing, but it's just one of those things.
I think that's incredibly coherent for a 112-year-old.
Brilliant, bless him. I suppose when you think he was born, it must have been 1908 or thereabouts. Yeah.
Goodness.
So he's obviously lived through both World Wars. He's seen it all, really, when you think about it. And would he have seen... Let's just think about this. Obviously, the Queen, her father before that, the Queen's grandfather, and possibly before... Will he have seen 4 monarchs, maybe? Certainly 3, anyway.
It wouldn't have been the Queen's grandfather, though, would it? It was her uncle.
Oh, of course, yes. The David who abdicated.
Edward?
Well, David was his real name. Edward
yes.
was the king name. So
My goodness, I'm completely lost. I'll just nod along.
This is where watching
one,
The Crown has been very useful. So actually, you're right. There was a father, her uncle, and a grandfather, and I think possibly, checking back through the royal history in my brain,
It had just missed Queen Victoria, I think, wasn't she? She was 1901.
Yeah, there we go. So let's say he's certainly seen a fair few monarchs. Let's play safe on a lot of things. So good old Bob. Was it Bob? What was his surname?
Bob Wayton.
Wayton. Good on him. Brilliant stuff. What have you? You've got a good story this morning.
I think this is really interesting. Whether you do or not, I'm not sure. But if you're next watching some kind of film where you're trying to work out who's done what, perhaps it's a murder mystery or something like this, my story today could be a bit of a spoiler, because a Hollywood director has revealed that the company Apple lets its iPhones be used in films only if they're held by the good guy.
Oh, really interesting.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Rian Johnson was explaining the making of a particular scene in his film called Knives Out for a video interview with Vanity Fair when he pointed out the iPhone being held by one of the characters. And so basically, it's a bit of a spoiler, he says, although not all of them are going to be holding phones at the same time. So not really. And we are, told that this doesn't really give it away. But yes, basically, bad guys' iPhone, like, categorically says, cannot be held by bad guys, the iPhone.
So this is kind of like the ultimate product placement, really, isn't it? Dictating terms.
Yeah, you can have them, but only if it's positive endorsement, essentially.
I think that is great. Well, I suppose they can sort of stamp their terms, as it were. Mind you, they could use other phones, I guess, couldn't they?
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
but interesting.
Yeah, you see, you just don't know these things that go on behind the scenes. I know product placement, certainly in soaps these days, is more commonplace than it used to be.
I think usually, obviously it's all over the place in TV and film, but who's holding it and how it's portrayed is not usually something that's stipulated, I don't think.
There you go. Look at Apple calling these shots there. And in sort of movie-related news from me, Jude Law is reprising his role as Albus Dumbledore to bring another Harry Potter story to life in an audiobook.
I was going to say reprising his role. Okay.
So he's going to be part of an all-star cast who've come together to record the Tales of Beedle the Bard, J.K. Rowling's book of children's stories. For the first time in audio form, this will be. The Tales of the Beedle, or Beedle the Bard, were first referenced in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows as fairy tales the wizarding children read while growing up. Now, as I've said before, I've never seen a full Harry Potter movie. I've seen odds and sods, but never a full movie. So have you heard, either of you, the Tales of Beedle the Bard?
I mean, I'm not a Harry Potter or whatever you call it.
I was a big Harry Potter fan, so I'm familiar with the concept.
It's a good idea, actually. I mean, and I love audiobooks as well. Obviously being a radio person, I had some Agatha Christie's on CD, which I listened to in the car. Yeah,
I've never liked them. I think because I have a tendency for my mind to wander. I fear that if I listen to an audiobook, I'll miss something important. So I've never really got into them. But I think it's a great idea.
You do have to concentrate, and you do podcasts, Sean, don't you? So have you got a more concentrated ear for these kind of things?
Possibly, maybe. I'm not
listen to
sure.
a lot
I
of
suppose
podcasts.
it depends on the story as well, doesn't it? If it's a good story, it'll hold your attention. If it's not, then you'll wander.
Well, there you go. So look out for this. The Tales of Beadle the Bard. I love that. It's going to be out later this year. Jason Isaacs and Warwick Davis also are performing on them as well, along with Jude Law. Right, Simply Read for you now on Manx Radio. Money's too tight to mention. It's 8:45.